when I pulled onto the church driveway and everything, I was circling around. I said, "Oh, okay, this is a nice little church." And so, I stood in the parking lot and I looked around and everything. And so, when we left on our way home, she wasn't saying anything. And I asked her, I said, "Well, what's wrong with you? Are you all right?" She said, "Yeah, I'm fine." She said, that's where you're gonna be." I said, "What do you mean that's where I'm gonna be?" She said, that's where God gonna call you to start your ministry, pastor. And I said, "But I told you, I'm not pastoring no church." And I went there to fill the pulpit, and we went that Sunday, the next day, and I preached, and my children were small, and so when I left there, I went back home, and I just kind of forgotten it, and I guess about 2 weeks later. They called me and wanted to do an interview. When the deacon called me, asked me about doing an interview, I asked him, I said, an interview for what? And he said, you're on our list of individuals to come pastor. And at that point, I didn't know what to say, because all I could hear was her saying, "This is where you're going to be." And so when I did go do the interview. And so, it was a traditional church. My people really nice. And so, when I did the interviews to kind of sabotage it and everything, the interview, LC was playing drum for the Voice for Christ. And so they didn't have any drums and everything. And I said to them, I said, "Okay, now, I know y'all don't have a musician yet." I said, "But my son plays drums." And how old was LC? About 7. About 7. Yeah. I said, he don't want to play the piano. He don't want to play a guitar. He's a drum player. I said, "So do he get to come here to play drums?" And the whole room got silent. And I thought, okay, I got you now. And so one of the deacons said, "I tell you, a drum just give me a headache, and that type of thing." And I said, "Well, listen, where I am, that's where my son is going to be." And, I said, I don't think this is going to work. And so another day or two, they called me and said, "Where Reverend Cash? We met and we said, yeah, your son come play drum." And I said, "Oh man." And so, it turned out, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. The people were just wonderful. The deacons at First Les Rock, they helped me to become the pastor I am today. They were just fabulous. And they allowed me to make mistakes. And they didn't crucify me for it. I just remember one mistake that I made, and that they actually probably could have gotten rid of me. And the chairman of the deacon board, he called me. He said, "Reverend Cash," he said, "Well, you done, he said, everybody entitled to mistakes." He said, "The thing about it is how we gonna get out of it." And we sat and we talked about it and everything. And the church just embraced me. It wasn't no execution of it or anything, and never heard anything from it from that day to this one. And being that I had been there, the church grew. I was in love with them, and so we are creatures of habit. We don't like change. And so, you know, I said, okay, this is where I'm going to be. You know, I'm just going to continue to work with these folk, continue to grow the church, see where the Lord takes it, and that type of thing. And, you know, actually, you know, I had gone out and, you know, I had looked at where the church was sitting, and I was looking for how it, you know, once it grew, how to expand the building. And, you know, the Lord blessed us to purchase, I don't know, what was it, 5 acres or 10 acres of property?
I think it was 5.
5 acres of property. And, you know, Lord blessed us to pay the facility off. And so, and, you know, and blessed us to do things in the community with the folks who lived in the community. And, you know, like I said, you know, blessed us with a musician. The church grew. And, you know, so I didn't want to leave. You know, I didn't. And then what happened was, I won't call the members from Clegg's name. You know, they would come by my house and said, Ron Cash, you know, Clegg's need a pastor. Why don't you consider coming back home? I said, coming back home to pastor? Are you kidding me? And they said, no. And I said, no. I said, no. You know, I just told them, no, I'm not doing that. And, you know, and I had 2 or 3 members from this church stop by our house in Durham. And they were started to stop so regularly. And when I see them, you know, I look out the window and see them get coming. I said, "Oh my gracious, here they come again!" And you know, so I just constantly said to everybody that came by, I said, "No, I'm not going to do that." And finally, there was a mother of this church who lived in Durham, so it was convenient for me to stop by her house, pick her up, and take her to First Les Rock with me.
And revivals.
And revivals. You know, she just did everything with me in Durham because she lived that close to the church. And so finally one day, you know, I had her name was Belly Mitchell, Miss Betty Mitchell. And she was just such a joy. And so one day I picked her up, and I don't think my wife was with me that day. I think she may have been going home. And me and Miss Betty, we were riding, we was talking. And so on the way home, you know, after service was over, we was on our way home. And she said to me, she said, "Brother Louis, have you considered going back home to pastor?" I said, "Miss Betty, I am not going back to Clegg to pastor." You know, and I told her about the folks who stopped by my house. And I said, because that just wouldn't be a good mix with my family. My cousin, with folks I grew up with, and I said, you know, I just can't see that. And then she, in a very calm voice, said, "Well, Brother Louis, let me ask you this. Have you prayed about it?" And I said to Miss Betty, "Miss Betty, I don't think I need to pray about that." I said, you know, so. And when I got her home, got her out the car, got her to her door and everything, and on her way in the house, she turned around and looked at me. She said, "Well, you know, son, I ain't gonna get in your business, but I would recommend that you pray about it before you say you're not gonna do it. So you need to ask God about it." And I remember thinking, I said, why did I pick this old lady up anyway? You know, and so, you know, because all I could hear when I lay down at night, "Brother Louis, did you pray about it? Did you pray about it?" And, you know, just, you know, so then, you know, then I started praying about it. And so finally, you know, my name came up before vote, long story short. And, you know, and I said to my brother Leroy, you know, who died, I said, "Listen, if I don't get 90+% of the votes, I'm not coming. I'm not coming on a 51-49 vote." I said, "Cause 2 votes can turn either way." I said, so, you know, and so, you know, I just put the odds so they wouldn't be. And then the night they had the church conference, he called me. He said, "Congratulations, new pastor." I said, "What you talking about?" He said that, you know, they voted, and he said the problem won't be about 3 or 4 people, less than 5 that didn't vote for you. And I said, "Oh, okay." And then we hung up, I laid in the bed, I just cried, man. 'Cause, you know, but, you know, since being here, we have established a wonderful relationship with this congregation, with, you know, with folks that I grew up with and with family and with the community. You know, it's been wonderful, you know, so I recommend to anyone, before you decide you're not going to do something, pray about it. And the folks at First Les Rock, they still loves us. We still love them. You know, I will, when they're having something special, I will, you know, from time to time I go over, or if I meet them on the streets, you know, they're still just wonderful and kind to us. And you know, for that, you know, I'm just grateful. You know, so, but anyway, that's my story, how I got into ministry here at Clegg Chapel.